Good morning, my fellow traders. Happy Friday and welcome back to another live trading session, guys. So we've been killing it this whole week so far, only taking $20 loss on Monday and $1 loss on Wednesday. So let's see how much money we can make today on Friday. Let's end it out with a good bang. And so far we have been killing it on our trade seller here, as you guys can see. And let's get to it. So there's one thing that I do want to point out here on the hourly time frame and the higher time frames in general. Not really much is going on in the market. As you can see here on SPY, we're actually just chopping. But I want to point out one very important thing, guys. I always say watch the higher time frames because the higher time frames usually tell you something. Even when the lower time frame is chopping, there's still something to be said on a higher time frame. Now, what is the higher time frame saying at this exact moment, guys? This is just how you read technical analysis. It's very simple. On a 1 hour time frame, you can see this is Friday. This is yesterday, which is Thursday, Wednesday, and Tuesday. So on Tuesday, we were below the zone. Then we came up to test it, rejected, came up to the top of the zone, rejected again, and broke down below. Now, here is Thursday, breaking above, which is where we took calls yesterday on Nvidia and a couple other stocks as well to make a nice gain. And then, guys, understand, here we are after a nice run above that breakout, pulling back to retest on this general area. Now, this looks like healthy price action. Very simply, breaking above, and all it is could be a pullback, a potential pullback for an entry to the upside. Now, does not mean I'm going to enter calls just yet. Doesn't mean I'm going to enter calls now. I'm currently just watching the market, guys. Everything I'm doing is based off higher time frame setups. So again, all I'm showing you guys is that I'm watching the hourly time frame and I'm seeing that we could potentially bounce here. And if we do, it's going to bounce to the next resistance, at least to the most previous highs. So I'll let you guys know if we catch anything so far. Guys, everything that we talked about ended up happening. So guys, again, remember how we talked about on the hourly time frame, which we're going to go over on the hourly time frame and dissect it one last time. But we mentioned how there's going to be a potential bounce here, and there was a bounce. And we're going to break down the technical analysis, how you can spot the intraday price action and potentially spot a trade as well. Because not only did we catch a trade on SPY, but we also traded Nvidia, which put us on the day above over $64. A very small gain in trade on SPY, but a nice 17% gain on Nvidia on the second trade here, or on the first trade here. So first, let's go over SPY and exactly what happened, guys. We said that there'd be a potential bounce here, and the reason being is because on the hourly time frame, it was holding this general support area. Plus, when you go on the higher time frame, you can see that really it's just following price action. At first, there was a rejection here, a rejection there again, rejecting price action around here. Then we get the first official breakthrough, which was yesterday, and then again here was the retest here in the general area. So basically a break and retest, and then guys, we ended up bouncing. Now, very simply, before we get into our Nvidia trade, which was super nice, which is right here, you guys can see I got a very nice break and retest trade. I want to go over how you guys can also make trades off intraday action, price action movement. And what do I mean by that? And when I say intraday, all that means is that from the opening price of today to the end of the day of the same day. So just intraday, based off my technical analysis, which I provided in my traded days tab, you guys can see here, based off reading price action on the SP 500s. Again, very simple price action. All I was reading is just how this could be a potential support based off break and retest off the 1 hour time frame. And again, how can you potentially find a trade on the intraday market based off the higher time frame setups? There are multiple ways. Not only can you just enter off the higher time frame and just risk it for the biscuit, take a bounce trade or potential retest here on the hourly time frame, or you can go on 5 minutes and you can spot potential trade using very simple support and resistance levels, such as the ones I found today, which I'll show you guys how I found them. Again, using the pre-market hours or intraday action does not necessarily matter. You can use you can use these wicks here and just connect these wicks for a very nice breakout. Or what I did was I grabbed pre-market high. So I grabbed the highest point in the pre-market of today's action and connected it just like that. So that's the one that I use personally myself. So now you got your trend line breakout. This is a very simple breakout for any of my trend line traders. Or what I also even added to was I grabbed the highest point of that wick, grabbed the lowest point of this wick or the highest point of this wick here, extended it out. And again, this is how I trade. And this is how I actually caught a trade using not only this trend line, but also this resistance level. And the reason why is because I didn't want to enter calls on this candle here and then it ends up rejecting this resistance level. That's not the way I trade. But if you guys watch my video, you guys know I like to wait for a 15-minute candle breakout, which in this case, this is that 15-minute candle breakout. And then you go on a lower time frame to spot the retest. And you can see it gave you 3 retest opportunities, and I entered in on the second one. So I didn't enter in on the first 2. I entered in on the third one here. Matter of fact, it gives you 4 entries, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4 after a breakout of this resistance level and the breakout of this trend. If you didn't enter on this trend line retest, because this resistance level like me, then maybe you should have caught the retest here like I did, which I caught the retest. Had I held just for a little bit more, these things went crazy. But this is not the trade that I really want to go over. The trade that I really made some good money on was Nvidia today. So let's talk about Nvidia, guys. I want to show you guys something really nice. So look how clean my chart is. All I use is very simple levels such as support and resistance levels and trend lines as well, as you guys can see. But I have this very massive 4-hour trend line just connecting this wick to that wick, extended. You can see we rejected at one point, and then weeks later or a week later, we can see we're here finally breaking above. Now, mind you, I did not expect this to happen at all today, but I want to show you guys something, because again, I provided this idea, or at least I provided the technical analysis that market is holding support here, because not only does Nvidia look like SPY, but also Nvidia is holding support, guys. You guys can see, look at the way it's rejecting here at first, then in the after hours breaks above, rejects trend, then in the pre-market holds support, guys. This is very important. Hold support. Maybe you guys are probably saying shoulda, woulda, coulda entered here, but again, that's not my trading style. What I like is a break and retest. So again, now I'll wait for this breakout of this trend line. Here's the breakout candle. Let me mark it off as an arrow so you guys can understand. Breakout candle. Then all you have to do is patiently wait for the retest here, and this is the retest. Boom. And you guys can see my orders right here. I entered in at 9:15 a.m. That means literally as soon as the candle closes, I entered in that candle, because I understood that after this candle closed, this is exactly a retest. This is exactly what I'm looking for, because look at the volume. Buyers are stepping in. There's barely any sellers. Long wick to the downside indicating that buyers are stepping in. That's how I read candlesticks. That's how I use volume in my favor. And then again, the break and retest strategy as an entry model. And it's a breakout trade. So all these things are lining up in my favor to understand that all I have to do is just simply assess my risk. And I already knew I'm going to go in for $400 a piece. If I lose 10% of $400, that is $40, guys. That's not going to hurt me. That's not going to kill me. That's not going to make me go broke if I lose $40, but I'm willing to try to gain double that, which is at least 80, or 3 times that, which is at least 120. So I always try to at least shoot for 1 and 3, but in this case, guys, we only got to a 1.5, a 1 to 1.5, a 15% gain here for $62 instead of 80, which would have been a 1 to 2. But either way, you guys can learn from my mistakes too, as far as not holding enough, because that is a lesson that I need to learn, is hold a little bit longer. But check this out. Breakout here, retest here on the entry. Guys, all I had to do was trust this trade plan as much as I could, and I did collect a nice gain after an exit. But even then, look at how it hit price target and went a little bit more. But let's check out the 5 minutes, guys, because look at this. I also entered on 5 minutes, and I based my entry and got the retest on the 5. So I entered on this candle at 9:15 a.m., which is when that 15-minute candle closed. And you guys can see it's a decent potential breakout to the upside, and so we just entered. I assessed my risk and understood that if we get back below this trend line, or maybe even break below and create some new lower lows, and we no longer hold this general upside trend, and you can see we kind of even broke here a little bit. But again, if we continue on breaking new lower lows, then I have to exit. But in this case, guys, end up going in my favor right away. That is how I use the break and retest model to my favor. That is how I use the strategy in my advantage. And if you guys want to learn this in depth, it's only $50 a month. And this single trade right here would have paid for the full monthly service in one single trade. So understand that not only can you use all this technical analysis in your favor to make these trades yourself every single day in the market, but also you can learn every single day side by side with me, because I provide this type of trade setup and trade style every single day in my Trade Ideas tab. And all I do with these videos is literally trade it myself and show you guys how it's done. And if you guys need any extra help, I'm always here to provide some extra assistance, as far as either going live in the voice chat, doing some trade recaps, dropping these vlogs, which end up helping people across the board, because again, you can learn from the trades I take. I break them down for you guys. And anyways, guys, have a good rest of your guys' Friday, and I'll catch you guys on tomorrow's vlog.